Disgruntled ANC members in the Moretele region in the northwest are picketing outside Luthuli House. They are unhappy about the candidate list presented for the upcoming local government elections. Govan Whittles is there and joins me now. Govan, good afternoon. And I can imagine if that is the case with that community, what about the other regions as far as the list of candidates that have been submitted? Have you been sensing a whole confusion and frustration?
Well, what we have here is a problem with the names that were submitted to the Interim Provincial Committee of the Northwest of the Bojanala region, and the people you see here are members of the ANC in the Moretele sub-region. They represent 26 branches, so that's the entire Moretele sub-region that have come here. And essentially what they're protesting is the submission of the names by the IPC to the NEC, claiming that once those names were confirmed by branch general meetings and then confirmed by the community and sent off to the IPC, they were manipulated, and they want the NEC to look at that. With me I have two of the guests, Mr. George Marindi. Let's begin with you, sir. So you represent some of these branches here. And what exactly is the problem with how the IPC received the list from the sub-region and how it was sent to the NEC?
No, thanks. The process is that people went for interviews. Now, there are two processes. It's a nomination of a ward candidate, it's a nomination of PR candidate. One, the BGMs were held, community meetings were held, community came up with their preferred candidate in some of the wards. So at the extended PEC meeting, which in our case is IPC, in that extended meeting, they were supposed to confirm what the community want, at the level of the ward candidate. But those names were changed. And we know what happened, previously. When you change the names, community will then come with their own person, and we lose the election. So we are saying you can't manipulate the list because of their guidelines. And when the ANC make those guidelines, they know what they were doing.
Who manipulated the list and why did they do that?
It happens at the extended IPC meeting that was held over the past 3 days in Rustenburg.
And why did they do it?
Because they prefer their friends over what the community wants.
All right, with me I also have Mr. Pule Museki. He's the chairperson of the sub-region. And Mr. Museki, what's the reaction been from the branches that nominated those candidates and confirmed those candidates who were then removed from the list?
Thank you very much. After the branches get a tip of that, the list that were submitted is changed. Then they mobilize themselves. As you can see, they came here in numbers to come and present the memorandum of demand to the headquarters. Because we know there is members of the IPC. They are from our sub-region. The one is the former mayor there. Then that is why they put their friends on the list so that they can be able to loot the municipality. And then if you can see the names that they have prioritized on that list, none of them have nominated by the branches. So that is the reason behind this manipulation. They want to.
And what do you want the NEC to do?
The NEC have no choice but to do what is best, because of elections is all about numbers. As you can see, we came here in numbers, and then others, we left them at home. So if the ANC wants to win these elections, they must do what is correct, because we have all the proofs, we have all the records from the BGMs to the community meetings. We have submitted everything to the office of the Deputy SG, Jesse Duarte.
All right, thank you so much. That's Mr. Pule Museki. He's the chairperson of the sub-region. And that's quite a threat to make, considering the ANC's dependence on its structures to win elections, particularly in the Northwest, although they have traditionally performed very well here. Well, what happens from now is that the ANC will discuss these names of candidates over this weekend and submit them to the IEC tomorrow. Then the parties have until the 2nd of September to change the list, and then the final list will be announced by the IEC on the 7th of September. So there is still room for these concerns to be heard and for changes to be made, but whether or not the NEC will make those changes, we'll only find out in the week when they report back on the decision. Notemba.
Govan, has the NEC reacted in any way so far from these protests outside Luthuli House? Have they gotten any reaction from the NEC, or are they waiting for a response still?
Well, they did hand over a memorandum to the General Manager in the Deputy Secretary General's office, who committed to raise their concerns and pass it on to the special extended National Executive Committee meeting, which is still sitting, but which deliberated at length last night on the name selections, where we understand members of the National Youth Task Team of the ANC Youth League made a very big plea for the youth to be represented there. So this will be one of those disputes that will be heard there, but so far there's only been a commitment by the Office of the Deputy Secretary General for their concerns to be passed on.
Well, the deadline for submission of the names is tomorrow. Do we then expect these protesters from that branch in Moretele to spend the rest of the day there until their concerns have been addressed?
Well, they're getting ready to go back to the Northwest, but there is precedent of ANC branches coming to the head office or to the site of an NEC meeting and staging a protest with a memorandum, and then that memorandum being discussed inside of the NEC meeting. So it would be likely that these concerns are discussed in that special extended NEC meeting, which is underway and hasn't adjourned yet. And since the party would only be confirming the names before the submission, which is 5 o'clock tomorrow, they still have time to make changes and deliberate over this matter. It should be noted that the Bojanala region in the Northwest, which is the Rustenburg area, has been troubled for at least 3 years, and the IPC that's running the region has extended its term in terms of how much time they thought they would need to stabilize the region. And because of that, many of the branches within the region and the sub-regions have continued to operate, but don't often find approval from the IPC, which is viewed as a site of factional battles, particularly in the troubled Northwest province.